Hey everyone, thank you to the WTM, GDG, and the organizers for inviting me and putting together this incredible conference. Thank you so much for such an awesome keynote speech. I am inspired and just ready to get out there and design our future, make a difference. And it just makes me even more excited to talk about how we, people in tech on the ground are going to help do that, help shape the future. And so what I'm going to do is take it down to the personal level. How do we get from where we are now, excited, ready to make change, to actually making it happen, achieving our goals? I'm going to share my story. You guys heard a little bit about my background. 3 years ago, I left government. I worked in City Hall in New York City as chief of staff to the chief of staff to the mayor. And when I left for the tech field, it was a huge change. The past environments I'd worked in were very structured. Salary tiers, job titles, dress codes. Now in tech, everyone was wearing hoodies. There were dogs in the office. On a more serious note, I'd also left an environment where women and people of color made up the majority of people who I saw in leadership. And when I moved to tech, I was an outlier. Since those 3 years, I've moved up from working in operations, leading a customer support team, to running product. I make decisions about what we build and how, about what features we keep and which we don't. I manage our design team, our technical consultants, and operations team. And yet, when I was asked to give this talk, I thought to myself, me? Are you sure? I didn't think anybody would be interested. I wondered if I would have enough to say. I felt my public speaking skills weren't good enough. I was nervous. I am nervous right now. And what I did was I took a step back and I said, okay, this feeling that I'm feeling right now is actually very familiar. This is the feeling that I've had every time I was asked to take on a new responsibility, manage someone who I thought was really smart and capable, take on a new job that had a lot of, responsibility and was really important. And so I looked into this feeling and I found that actually I was really far from alone, that this is something that's really common, that probably some people in the audience have felt too. 75% of women executives have experienced imposter syndrome. So let's break that down. 75%, 3 out of 4 of women executives. So these are women who, not only are capable, but they are recognized as such. They have made it into the leadership of their companies. They are in the C-suite, and yet they too are still feeling imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is defined as feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. It's feeling like you're not good enough, or feeling like someone else would do a better job than you, that at any moment people are going to find out that you're a fraud, that you are not as strong and smart and capable as you are. And of course, if you are a woman of color, that is all magnified. So what I want to talk about today is how to overcome this challenge and others, and really feel ready to live up to all of our potential and all of our talent, even if it doesn't always feel possible, even if it feels kind of scary. Some of this is about learning to believe in yourself. Some of this is about hands-on tips that worked for me and that I hope work for you too. After my slides, we'll have time for questions and discussion. So please take note of anything you think would be helpful or interesting for us to have a broader conversation about. Just go ahead and throw it in the comments. Or if you have things that have worked for you, if any of this rings true to you and you have a story or a tip that you want to share with others, I'd love to use some of our time at the end to share knowledge across this group. I have read the bios of all the speakers. It is an incredible group of women, and I know that there's a bunch of people in attendance who have, done tons and worked through a lot. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is be confident. Obviously, this is easier said than done. So how do we go about doing that? The first, and I know this sounds silly, is practice taking a compliment. We as women are often taught to sort of push those compliments aside, to say, oh, thanks, but actually it was no big deal, or I get really lucky, or, it's easier than it looks. Take the compliment, practice in the mirror, practice with a friend, say, thanks, I really appreciate it. To value your own work, you have to say it out loud. So yeah, practice. Next, this is a phrase we use a lot in the US. I don't know if it's all over, but fake it till you make it. If all else fails, pretend that you're confident until it feels real. No one will know the difference. I've read studies that show that people who smile, even if it's fake, eventually feel a little bit happier. So yeah, give it a go. The third is tackle your insecurities head on. Don't charge the hill. For me, one of my insecurities, one of the things that I am nervous about is public speaking. It is not a coincidence that I am doing this, even though it terrifies me. It's something that I know I need to practice at, and every time I do it, it feels a little bit easier. And then a particular tip for those of you who are managers and lead teams, learn the job of all of your direct reports. It is hard to confidently lead a team, to give feedback to your teammates, to set a course for a new direction, if you don't actually know how to do all of the work that they do. So spend a few days learning, trying in and out everything that they do, or their specific responsibilities. It'll make you feel a lot more confident as manager. All right, so we talked about be confident. Next step, be curious. I took a look at my resume before I started putting together this talk, and I realized that of all the responsibilities I have and all those responsibilities I had in previous roles, none of them were a result of a class I took or a training that I completed. I learned everything through on-the-job experience and independent learning. It is what will move you forward in no place more than tech, and in no place more than a startup. So breaking it down, a reminder, you are more than your resume and more than your coursework. So one, ask your colleagues and your manager to teach you what they know. Don't wait on them to volunteer. They won't. It just won't occur to them. It's not that they don't want to help. It's not that they don't want to share what they know. In fact, they love to share what they know. In tech, we are all nerds, as you guys are well aware, and nerds love to talk about what they're building and how. So, this is how I've learned about everything from architecture to fundraising, stuff that I had no background in. It's made me understand my job better. It's helped me to work more with others, which is a great way to get a path into leadership. It's led to new opportunities, because when people realize, oh, you're interested in this that's outside your specific job description, they will have you in mind when they need help with a project, even if you don't know how to do it yet. It's especially important with your manager. Use your check-in meetings, your one-on-one meetings with them, not just to give them updates, but to help you learn too. Ask them about company strategy, about what's going on in other departments, about what's in other areas of the company. Just use that time as much as you can. Next step, volunteer for new responsibilities, even if you don't know how to do it yet. You can learn. Everyone, who has gotten this far in tech is smart and capable. This is how I got into product. I was working in operations, and we were a fast-growing startup, and there was a backlog of product feature analysis that none of the engineers had time to do, that our CEO didn't have time to do. And so I said, hey, I can take a look, see if I can see, did this experiment work? Did it not? I didn't know exactly how I was going to do everything. My SQL skills, which I had, sort of picked up a while back, were pretty rusty, but I knew that I could figure it out. I had trusty Google search and YouTube and tutorials, and I did. And I took on more and more and learned more and more about what our company needed, and eventually, was given a new title, head of product. The third thing here under Be Curious is make your own growth a priority. Everyone is busy at work. You are busy at work. If you don't carve out time for yourself to explore things that you're interested in, the time won't exist. There's always more to do. There's always stuff people need help with, but you advancing in your career and learning more is good for you. It's good for your organization or for your company, and it deserves that priority. And the last one here is just a reminder for managers, let your team do the same. They need to grow. If you help people grow, it will make your team better. It will build your team members, happiness and success. And in the end, everybody wins. So delegate, give them projects that they haven't done before, that, you're 80% confident that they can handle, that they can learn, and support them. But they want to be challenged, and it's your job as a manager to make sure that they are challenged and to support them through that. All right, so we talked about be confident, be curious. The last one is be generous. I think that this is something that sometimes people forget when they are on the career ladder. I think women typically don't forget it, but I just want to talk through a couple pieces of this that have really, I've seen really make a difference in individual careers and in organizations succeeding. The first one, and this one is super important for managers, share credit. If your team hits a goal or, has like a ton of success, it was your entire team who did that. If you manage a team who manages a team, it was that team 2 levels down who helped do it. When something awesome happens, what I do is I try to think, okay, like here's one person who made this happen and who helped them do it. There's the next person. And when I can, I send an email to the whole company sort of describing that so that everyone can get the recognition that they deserve. I think some people are hesitant to do this because they think that people won't see them as, as deserving or as great if, they give the credit to their team. I think it's actually the opposite. When I see someone's team succeed, I know that it wasn't just that one manager, and I really respect people who share the credit. The next step is kind of similar, but cultivate an attitude of abundance, meaning that it's not a zero-sum game. If your colleague learns more and takes on new responsibilities, that's great. That means that they can teach you more, and you guys can work together on more exciting and more advanced projects. Their gain is not your loss, and your gain is not their loss. Especially in tech, we know that the sky is the limit. All we have to do is learn enough and try hard enough. So when others are advancing, that is helping you, and vice versa. And And that's what I mean by an attitude of abundance. And the last piece here is, please remember that you too deserve generosity, especially during COVID. Let's be honest, times are hard. Go easy on yourself. If you make a mistake, hey, who hasn't made mistakes? Who hasn't made more mistakes when there is a global pandemic on? Cut yourself some slack. If you want to take a day off, need to take a day off for whatever, do it. Don't beat yourself up over it. Listen to yourself, to your spirit. If you need some time or some space, give it to yourself. You wouldn't begrudge your teammate or your direct report for being generous with themselves. You would be generous with them. So I think it's really important that, especially as women, we don't put ourselves at the very last, and then remember to take care of ourselves too. So the last thing I wanted to leave people with, some words that have really been helpful to me. We are the role models we've been waiting for. I have role models, but I don't think there's ever been a time where there's so many amazing women who are taking on more responsibility, becoming leaders, really making a change in the world. And we can do it. We don't need anyone to show us the way any further. It's time to take the ball and run for it, run with it. Last thing, with Shadow, the company I work with, we're hiring back-end DevOps operations. If anyone's looking, or if anyone's curious and wants to network, you can talk to me if there's any way that I can support anybody in their career. Let me know. I think my contact information is here.